Morning, Amy.
Hey, Pam, how you doing?
Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. I am Amy Johnson from the Midwest Manufacturers Association office. I will be your moderator during today's webinar. This webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour. If you could please place your virtual name tag on. This is done by scrolling over your profile video, clicking on the 3 dots in the top right corner, and select rename with your name and your company name. Q&A will be held at the end of the presentation via the chat function. This webinar will be recorded and available on each association's website located under the events tab. With that, I will now pass the microphone over to our CMMA board president, Les Engel.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Les Engel, and just want to extend you a warm welcome from the AMFA, the AMFA group up in the Arrowhead area, CMMA here in central Minnesota, and Tri-State that's more over on the western side. And we appreciate you taking your time from your schedule to join us today. Our goal is to provide content that specifically helps manufacturers and to provide manufacturing solutions. And you may be interested to know that today it appears to be the biggest attendance we've had yet for these webinars. So today we welcome you to session 5 of our marketing series, featuring a discussion on marketing your manufacturing business with video. To start us off, I'd like to introduce Pete Snell from Mastcom. And you should know that Mastcom is a company that's been around apparently since 1977. So and Pete began his career working in the editing room for commercial and feature film production companies. So over the years, he's written, produced, directed, and edited hundreds of productions, from nationally broadcast TV commercials to marketing, training, and corporate image videos. Pete is also a professional musician and has performed on soundtracks for several broadcast television spots and longer format productions. Pete has a BA from the University of St. Thomas with additional studies in film production, music theory, and performance. He's also an avid fisherman, camper, and outdoorsman. So this morning I'd like to welcome Pete to explain about video.
Well, thanks, Les. Can everybody hear and see me at this point? Am I coming through?
Sounds good.
Okay. Just to clarify, I have not been here since 1977, just so you know. Nobody on staff has been here that long, but thank you everybody for showing up. I hope you're all healthy and staying safe. I wanted to let you know that my counterpart, Tim Lewis, who was our president, could not be here today. He had a time-sensitive client video shoot he needed to run out and do, so it'll just be me. But I'll certainly, hopefully, be able to cover everything we need to cover here by myself, and the technology is going to hold and all that stuff. So, Amy, can I go ahead and share my screen now?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so sharing the screen, and let's see, there's my deck, and I'll start out with this. I'm going to be showing a little bit of video today too. So, but as we had discussed, this is marketing your manufacturing business with video. And a lot of these principles we'll talk about here today are applicable, of course, to anything you're doing or any business regarding video, but we tailored this a little bit to what everybody here does. And we've done a lot of manufacturing videos and a lot of different industrial engineering. Medical is a big sector for us. So we'll talk a little bit about all that and how we approach video for manufacturing. So who is Mastcom? We are a certified veteran-owned video production company, and that's Tim. My counterpart is a Navy vet. He's the owner and president. And of course, like I said, he couldn't be here today. Established in 1977. Nobody working here has been here since 1977. But the point is, this has been a very long-standing and solid brand in the Minneapolis video production community for a number of years. We specialize in live action and animated video content, which I will show some examples here as we move along. And our focus is on marketing, training, advertising, awareness, and educational video. So we've done everything from TV commercials to sort of documentary style, long format things. And then of course, short format marketing training videos that go on websites and that kind of thing are very popular these days. So we do a lot of different things, but it's always video oriented. That's all we do. Excuse me. Key takeaways we're hoping to impart today are why use video and what it's good at, common uses of it, why you might do live action versus something animated, how we budget, and the overall process that goes into producing a video. And before, oops, I got a little ahead of myself. I wanted to show everybody a short demo reel. This is just a montage of the work we've done. And this will be the first video I'll show here. It's very short. You'll see some manufacturing stuff in there. And you will get a sense for the kind of work we have done. So I just got to get over to full screen here. Sorry, this display is a little new to me with all these different boxes and stuff. But this is what we call our general demo reel, which is basically a video production world speak for our portfolio, or at least a sample of it. And here we go. Hopefully this plays well for everybody. So I noticed a little hesitation in the playback there. I hope that's not going to be a recurring thing, but we'll work with the technology here. But that, of course, you saw some non-manufacturing oriented video in there, but I wanted to give everybody a sense of the breadth of the work we've done and the range. So moving on, why use video? And I'm going to get into a little bit of fact and figure stuff here. Not too much, hopefully, but we'll talk a little bit about why it's effective. Video helps attract new customers. So 93% of businesses reported gaining a new customer as a direct result of a video posted on social media. I'm going to guess those stats are pretty consistent, whether it's on social media, a website, however it's shown, but this particular stat applies to the use of video on social media. So it really gets people's attention. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here a little later. But one statistic that you may find helpful. Another one, people prefer video. So when video and text are both available on the same page, 72% of consumers prefer video to learn about a product or service. And that kind of makes sense when you think about we're in a very visual day and age and people don't have a lot of time and they tend to want to watch stuff more than read it. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what it is. So it's good for us. But it really does help cut through the clutter, as they say, in the advertising and marketing world. Video increases the effectiveness of email. So videos and email have been shown to increase click-through rates, also known as CTR, by over 96% on the first introductory email. So embedded video and email is a big thing these days. Of course, you don't want it to be too long or take up too much file space, but it can be a great way to distribute visual media for your company. Video increases understanding. Video marketers reported that video increased user understanding of a product or service, and 76% reported video helped them increase sales. And we've seen that a lot. People just can get really impressed when they see a great visual representation of who you are and what you do. Here's the things that video is good at. It is good at painting a picture and giving an impression, conveying emotion. Now, when we say emotion, we don't mean a tear-jerking, dramatic, video about your company, but emotion means a lot of things, but it really means striking a chord and leaving the audience with an impression. Video can do that for obvious reasons. Visual components, there's sometimes entertainment value to it. There's music, narration, and the texture of the narrator's voice can really add to the impact of any given video. And of course, we all know that because we've all been watching TV and seeing movies forever, and we know that they can leave you with an impression. It's good at conveying concepts, especially more abstract things that are hard to describe. Visual representation can often help convey ideas that's hard to explain, especially when you get into things like animation, which we'll talk about in a little while. It makes a human connection, obviously interviewing people, hearing their stories, getting a sense for who they are and what they do, and their own passions and all that really come out through video in a way that printed stuff just doesn't impart the same way. It helps buyers make decisions. And again, that gets back to the impact that video can have, and consistency and repetition. So incorporating your branding standards, whether it be colors, fonts, all that kind of stuff is incorporated into much of what we do. And that helps carry your brand impression forward. And of course, you can rewatch videos and continue to get that messaging out there. All right, common business purposes of video. The first one that we do a lot of and see a lot of is company overview videos. And this is where you can introduce viewers to who you are and what you do and make an emotional connection. They're often described as company anthem videos. It's another term we often use. And this is, just to show people, here's who we are, here's what we're all about, here's our values, here's a sense of the people who work here. So I'm going to show you a quick example of something like that, if I can get this thing to work. And this is a sort of a company overview video. Hopefully you'll sense what goes into really making a company come off the way they want to be perceived. This is for a chemical company, by the way, known as H.B. Fuller.
Our passion is to serve our customers better than anybody else in the industry. And we know our customers are constantly under market pressure to deliver better and more affordable products. And they need innovation.
Winning portfolio of innovation in today's world is very important. It allowed us to capture the market trend, but in the meantime, focus on customers' needs.
Here's what we're doing right now and what we see coming out in the next year or two. But beyond that, here's the new areas we see that your market is going in. And that really fosters a dynamic conversation.
Innovation is the lifeblood of H.B. Fuller. Our customers are innovating and we must innovate with them, whether that be for a new adhesive for a diaper, for food packaging, for alternative energy. Innovation is critical.
Conforma was one example where it improves the fit of adult incontinence products for active adults. Another example would be our new wetness indicator. This product is especially critical for caregivers and institutions who need to know that maybe a baby in a NICU or a patient that's bedridden needs their article changed. We worked with our customers to get constant feedback on our product prototype performance before we launch into the market.
So when I think of customer intimacy, what I really think about is we want to be partners with our customer. We want to innovate with them and innovate for them.
One example of customer intimacy in the electric vehicle market was when we worked with a key customer on the early design stage of their battery pack. And they wanted to reduce the weight, but they were concerned about the safety of the battery in case there's any fire.
So with adhesive potting material and fire retardancy feature, we can keep that contained inside the battery pack.
Strategic innovation really can't occur in a vacuum. You need to understand what your customers are going through in order to innovate around their issues. Our window manufacturers have been demanding better energy efficiency, reduce labor costs, things like that. So H.B. Fuller has been developing a product called 4SG, where we decided to approach this from a chemical standpoint and say, okay, we can develop a thermoplastic spacer that can address all these issues and remove the metal bar spacer. In almost any industry that we've participated in, our customers have asked for something and we've managed to develop a solution for that problem.
All we do is adhesives, and that's what makes it exciting. We're trying to bond to different substrates, and we try to eliminate the mechanical fasteners. And because we focus on adhesives, that's what we are good at.
And what I always think is funny is that people take adhesives for granted because you don't really see them, which is actually good for us because if you don't notice them, that means they're doing their job. And for scientists, that's all comes down to we inherently want to solve problems. So solving problems and those challenges is what really drives our passion. And when we do that, we solve our customer needs and then we can sell products.
This is Jim Owens, President and CEO of H.B. Fuller. I want to be clear, we're not just talking about innovation in terms of what we do with adhesives. That's only part of the story. What we really do is enable innovation for every manufacturer of goods in the world. That's how we make the world a better place. That's how we connect what matters.
So what you're seeing there, get back to this, is a pretty typical approach for a lot of companies where we interview key people at all levels, and then we shoot supporting footage that really exudes an emotional connection and a real deep sense of what the company does. You see a lot of textural shots and deep focus things, and that's a pretty typical treatment. Now that one was rather technical. They don't all get that technical or in depth, but stylistically, that's pretty typical for what we call a company overview video. Next common purpose is demonstration. How to demonstrate a procedure or process, and I'm going to show a little sample of that in this next bit. Sorry, I'm still trying to get my bearings on all these windows popping up. This is how to use a fall harness for a company called Capital Safety. And this one's fairly involved, but it's one approach to this type of video.
DBI Sala harnesses are the most advanced in the industry. In the next few minutes, we'll demonstrate how to properly don a harness. All harnesses should be properly inspected prior to use. To begin donning, hold the harness by the back D-ring. Make sure the straps are not twisted. Slip the harness over the arms and onto the shoulders. Make sure all straps are not tangled. The vertical straps should hang freely and should not be pulled to the center of the body. Attach the short chest strap by inserting the male buckle into the female buckle. The chest strap should lie across the chest about 6 inches below the top of the shoulders. To tighten the chest strap, pull the free end of the strap. Pass the excess strap through the loop keeper. The harness may have pass-through chest buckles. To connect this style, insert the male buckle through the female buckle. Finally, connect the leg straps by connecting to the buckles attached to the straps on each hip. To tighten the leg straps, pull the free end of the strap. Take up the slack by pulling on the adjuster buckle. Pass the excess strap through the loop keepers. Turn the quick connect buckle to the locking position. The leg straps should fit snugly. Check the fit by slipping your hand between your leg and the strap. As you turn your hand, it should squeeze your fingers slightly. If the harness uses tongue buckles, pass the webbing through the buckle and select the proper grommet. Secure the web through the keeper. If the harness has pass-through leg straps, insert male buckle through the female buckle. If the harness has a tongue buckle belt, pass the webbing through the buckle and select the proper grommet. Secure the web through the keeper. The belt should fit comfortably, not too tight. To tighten the harness, rotate the revolver adjuster knob as shown. To loosen, pull the adjuster knob out and rotate in the opposite direction. The straps should be adjusted to the same length. The harness may use parachute adjusters. To adjust this type of harness, place one hand on the top of the parachute buckle and pull the webbing with the other in the opposite direction. Once the harness is adjusted properly, the back D-ring should be centered between the shoulder blades. With a properly adjusted harness, the right gear, and fall protection training, you're ready for work. Visit www.capitalsafety.com for more information.
Now, that's an interesting video in the sense that you can really get the tone of what the clients sort of what they wanted to convey about their image, which is a lot of rough and tumble hard rock music, and you know, they don't all have models and that kind of intensity, but that particular client wanted that feel for their to represent their company. So obviously not every company is going to want that type of music or that type of presentation, but how-to videos when demonstrating step-by-step processes is really effective, because it's just really, I don't know about everybody else, but if I get directions for something in a little piece of paper when I'm trying to assemble something, I don't do well with that. But if I can watch a video, it makes a big difference. So very effective use of video is how-to. I want to talk a little bit more in depth about recruiting videos, because this has been a growing sector for us. And especially in manufacturing, we've had a number of people request bids on how to get more people to apply and work at their company, and how to separate themselves from their competition as far as hiring. Some statistics about recruiting. 73% of 18 to 34-year-olds found that their last job through a social media network, where often there's video. So that's a key statistic. 3 in 5 job seekers have used their mobile device to look for a job in the past year, especially among the younger folks, which is clear in that first bullet point. Videos are shared 12 times more than text and link posts. So if they have friends that might be looking for a similar job, they'll shoot the video often, because it really says a lot in a compressed amount of time. And a really interesting one, 73% of recruiters said that to compete against other employees, they highlight their own company culture, which is a really growing thing among millennials. We're finding more and more is they really want to know where they're going to work, and why they should go to work at one particular company as opposed to another. And video is a great way to demonstrate that. And I'll show you an example here in a minute. But one more statistic, and this is from the Minnesota Department of Demographics and the Census Bureau. But the supply of new workers beginning their careers at the lowest in decades, and that trend will continue into the foreseeable future. Sight, sounds, personality, and emotion will help you distinguish your company in the eyes of new hires. And this chart now, which is a little dated, but this is pre-COVID, of course, but it does show in the coming years a decline in the available new workforce coming into the job market, and they want to know kind of what's in it for them beyond just salary and packages, and video is a great way to convey that. This next sample I'll show you is a recruiting video. And what's interesting about this one is they're going for the millennial set, but the workplace itself is not particularly visually compelling. It's sort of your typical office environment. And the challenge with this one was, how do we get people excited about working here if it really is just sort of another office environment? It's a call center type of environment. So we went for talking to the people who work there and get a sense for what they like about it. And they found this to be really effective. So this is a company called DCM Services. And just got to get into full screen here. And it's pretty brief, which again is good in this instance. And here's an example of recruiting.
Well, DCM Services is really a very unique company in the accounts receivable management space. We work entirely on specialty accounts.
We handle many different types of business, from estate collections, bankruptcy, other specialty services that a lot of your traditional collection agency may not handle.
You can go as far as you want to go here at DCM Services. And there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of growth.
I started here 12 years ago, right out of college, as an entry-level employee. And over time, became lead, became a manager, became a director, and now I'm vice president.
Very quickly, I did find a place here and understand that there was a job here for me that can develop quickly into a career.
People come here and they find this is a place that I want to stay and grow.
The culture is very relaxed. The dress code is relaxed. The conversations on the floor are very relaxed. Everyone has a very friendly relationship with each other.
There's a lot of cool people here. It's a really fun environment. It's fun to come to work every day. It's a family here.
We are allowed to make our own schedules. It's just an awesome thing, especially when you have, kids or you have a family.
We have food.
Yes, the food.
We have food almost every day here at DCM Services.
I think another one of the perks that we really enjoy here is an incredibly generous PTO policy. I love the flexibility that comes along with it. You're given a lot of PTO and you're really encouraged to use it when you feel like you need to use it.
The incentive plan that we have has so many facets. There's going to be some way you're going to earn a bonus.
The charitable events are awesome. You have so many people that want to give back.
DCM Services is recognized as a top workplace. I think that has a lot to do with the recognition that the management and all other facets of the company recognize their employees for the good things that they do.
The leaders in the organization really make you feel empowered to make decisions and to have your voice heard throughout the organization.
I feel supported by my managers and my coworkers. We want to see each other grow and succeed.
There's no place like DCM Services. They are for the employees and they make sure that the employees have fun while doing a good job.
We want the employees to view this as a place, not just to come in, punch a time clock, and then go home. It allows people to say, you know what, this is more than just a job. It's a community that I want to be a part of.
Come find your place with us.
Come find your place.
Come find your place with us.
So clearly speaking to the millennials, they want a fun workplace, bring your dog, all that kind of stuff. This place doesn't allow that, but really distinguishing the attributes of working. And there was a key component of that project that was really successful for them. And they got a lot of response out of that video. The last thing I'm going to talk about is animation. We do animated projects, quite a few of them. And interestingly enough, in the world of COVID, we're doing a little more. We've been working pretty much as normal during this pandemic. We take all the safety precautions. We've had a number of clients say they want fewer people on shoots, fewer people in the room. We mask up. So that really hasn't impeded us. But one thing that has, we have offered more of is animation, because you don't need people to go out and shoot a video. You don't need interview folks. And if it's applicable and relevant and appropriate for the subject matter, it can be a great way to go. It's considerably a different process than live action, which I won't get too into in this seminar, but certainly if you have questions about it at the end here, I'd be happy to answer them. But it is good for a fresh approach. It can convey abstract concepts or we can use it when live action production is not feasible, or we just want to try something different and a little less traditional than live action. And I'm going to give you an example here. This is for, this is an industrial animation. I guess it's for industrial application. And you'll get a sense for how we can use animation.
A new industrial revolution is underway that will add trillions to the global economy. Data-driven production, enabled by a new industrial internet, promises to increase efficiencies and drive business forward faster than ever. The one drawback? A dramatic increase in cyber threats. Most industrial systems were designed decades ago, before cyber risks became realities. Connecting industrial assets now creates new apertures and increases the consequences of an attack. Bayshore's industrial cyber protection platform stops cyber threats from damaging industrial assets or data. Initially, the ICP platform operates in discovery mode, non-disruptively mapping the network and establishing a baseline of observed behavior. Then in protect mode, Bayshore digs deep into industrial protocols, testing the content and context of each message for policy compliance. Authorized transactions pass unimpeded. Unauthorized or unsafe messages and anomalies are flagged and can be instantly blocked before reaching their targets. Threat averted. In addition to protecting infrastructure, Bayshore enables operators to create managed and monitored access tunnels for users, applications, and services outside the plant. Trusted vendors can collect data for predictive maintenance or perform remote diagnostics, all under the watchful eye of plant engineers and cybersecurity teams. As the industrial internet evolves, Bayshore customers can confidently connect to all the future has to offer, knowing their industrial infrastructure is accessible, yet protected from today's cyber threats and tomorrow's.
So animation is something, like I said, we're starting to do more of, and animation also has there's a pretty wide range of budget and styles. You know, some of it's iconography that's manipulated and moved around, as you saw there. Others involve full-blown character animation, illustration. There's a lot of variation in animation projects. And of course, cost is a function of the complexity of it and all that. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we get into budgeting. But anyway, food for thought. It can be really effective for a lot of types of videos. All right, one of the most common questions, well, how much does video cost? There's a lot of factors that affect price. The treatment, and what we mean by that is a level of ambition. You know, is it elaborate? Does it involve multiple shoot days, building sets, which probably isn't going to come into play much in the manufacturing world. But as you can imagine, the level of complexity drives budget. Outside costs beyond Mastcom, actors, narrators, size of crew. And again, crews are getting smaller anyway, but COVID has certainly had an effect on that. But what do we need? Do we need to rent extra gear, extra camera equipment, extra lights? All those kind of things can play into cost. Elements, getting back to animation, 3D animation, considerably more expensive than simple 2D animation. Character animation, where you actually have people moving around, is considerably more elaborate and therefore more expensive than what you might have just saw with just icons being moved around and manipulated. The length and the number of finished videos. The longer the video, the more expensive it gets, of course. Usually involves more editing, often more shooting, more graphic work. So consider that. Incidentally, we're finding that the majority of videos we're seeing now are 2 minutes and under. I've shown you some longer ones today, and sometimes it calls for that. They're every bit as effective as a shorter one, but studies show that right around 2 minutes is an optimal attention span for most audiences these days. A big one is shooting days, and this applies a lot in the manufacturing world. Let's say, for instance, that you want to interview 10 people at your company, and you want a whole bunch of really nice supporting footage, maybe some aerials of your facility and kind of a tour of your facility. That's going to add shooting days. It might make it 2 shooting days instead of 1 shooting day. And shooting days are one of the quickest way to add budgets up. We find that to interview more than 4 people on any given day gets to be a little more than we can handle in a day, especially if you want supporting footage. So the number of people that you might want interviewed, the logistics of getting to your location, if we have to send a crew that needs hotel, of course there's mileage, per diems, those kinds of things. So travel and number of shooting days is a huge factor in determining budgets. Crew requirements, again, if we need to hire extra people to manage gear. Aerial shots are a big one for us now, and we only use FAA certified drone pilots to get aerials and stuff like that. So that adds cost, usually involves another person and an extra camera and of course a drone. Editing time is a function of shoot or length of video. So obviously it takes more to edit a 5-minute video than it does a 2-minute video. And so that can affect cost. Level of graphic complexity, 3D. Are they just simple titles that you want to identify people with and some bullet points? That's less elaborate than a lot of moving elements and complex graphic elements. And this applies a lot. We do a lot of medical, and this is where the graphics often come into play because 3D representations of the human body or the heart, that kind of stuff, can certainly affect budget. How many revisions? And this is an interesting topic because often we try to keep it down to 2 or 3. We understand sometimes it needs to be more than that. It can also be a function of how many people need to approve a video. We've had a number of instances where people say, well, it's just going to be 2 of us and that's all we need. And then at the 11th hour, 5 more people enter the approval process, and it gets a little hairy, but we've been there and we're happy to deal with that. That's not a problem, but that obviously adds time and detail that maybe wasn't anticipated, can drive cost. The experience and quality of the production company. Quality in video production is a little bit open to interpretation these days. We all know that people shoot videos on their cell phones, and there's a lot of consumer gear out there. But there's a lot of elements that go into a really good production, and hopefully that was evident in the stuff I showed you today, that isn't necessarily easy to do to the unexperienced or for the unexperienced producer. Lighting and sound, huge factors in how people react to a video. They often react to elements they don't realize they're reacting to. If you go to a movie in the theater, one of the reasons it looks so good is because some of the best cinematographers in Hollywood are lighting that stuff and giving it a look that you react to. And it's often subliminal, but it's certainly there. And a really good video has a level of quality, at least to our standards, that are necessary. We don't do much with quick and dirty iPhone kind of stuff, real immediate things like that. We like to bring a level to it that meets our standards, and we think it really serves your needs properly. And we can get into, I'd be happy to field any questions about some of those particulars, but all I'll say right now is that there is a standard that we like to maintain that really is in your best interest and gives you the maximum return on your investment. So those are all the things that can go into affecting the price of video. I would say length of shoot days and graphic complexity, number of shoot days and graphic complexity are probably the two biggest drivers of how much a video costs. And then we get into the process of producing a typical video. So we'll talk a little bit about what goes into that and how we share roles and all that kind of thing. Pre-production, that's where we have an approved budget. We know the scope of the video. We have a treatment. We know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, and all the components that go into any particular production. Typically, we have a signed contract before we enter this phase. So once those elements are in place, we start the process of further pre-production. A kickoff meeting, we determine the schedule. That not only involves when we're going to shoot, when we're going to edit, but any expectations you might have on your end. For instance, there's a trade show happening on the 25th in Florida. Probably not Florida nowadays with COVID, but that budget cannot be deviated from. It must be done that day. It must be approved. It must be shown. There is no way around that. That's good to know up front. Other people have more flexible deadlines. You know, we'd like it to be done sometime in February or whatever. But we want to know that going into it, because that has a lot to do with how we will back time everything out and what the expectations are going into it. So good to know those kinds of things and what you expect from the video and whether or not you need it at a certain time or not, or if you have a little bit of a looser schedule. What we like clients to do is a number of things. Identify the interview subjects, if there are interviews. So you're going to interview, let's say, 6 employees, everything from maybe the CEO or owner down to, I shouldn't say down to, but including somebody who works on the assembly line. These are just examples. You want a nice representation of your company throughout. We'd like you to help us identify who you'd like interviewed. Key messaging and visuals, things like we want to ask people these types of questions. We're hoping we get a sense for how they feel about working at your company, their history there, what their goals are. Visuals, we really want you to get the new clean room. If nothing else, we have a great new wing we built. We'd love to get that. Great to know. We really want visuals because we just built a whole new plant. Or a new wing of our facility, and we want to cover that with a drone. Great. We get a lot of requests for that kind of stuff. So key areas that we want to feature visually. Excuse me. Scheduling, we talked a little bit about that. When we need to shoot the video, if there's any constraints there, we got to shoot it by this date because the clean room won't be available for a week because of a big project that came in. Or we can't shoot until this date because that's when a new room or part of the facility will be completed. And so we know we won't be shooting till at least after this date when everything's up and running. Script content and approval. If there is a script, we'd like to go into the shoot with an approved script. That doesn't mean it can't be deviated from after we shoot, especially if it's a voiceover. We often tweak scripts after the fact. If it's a narrator on camera, little different story, but approved scripts do tend to change sometimes when we shoot. We say, oh, I see. We couldn't shoot here today. We won't mention that room, but we could shoot here. We're going to change the script a little bit, have the voiceover say this instead. Often not a problem. Informing everyone at your company we're going to be there. And this gets into things like, hey, that's the day that we hope you don't all wear t-shirts with logos on them. You know, maybe you look a little, you dress up a little bit, or you wear a company t-shirt. Certain areas are cleaned up and looking a little more presentable for camera. All things that we would like you to impart to your employees before we show up. Clearance and approvals for the crew on site. This gets in, especially with bigger companies, we like to show up and realize everybody knows we're coming. With security these days and people concerned about who's coming and going, we need any security clearances and that kind of stuff up front. So that's something we often will need our clients to help us facilitate since we don't have the capability to do that. And any legal or compliance routing. That again can be, everybody know we need to be there? Are there any insurance concerns? We cover our own insurance. We have our own insurance. But if there's any insurance or legal issues on your end, we'd love to know them up front. Often for on-camera subjects, we have them sign a release saying that it's okay to use their image or their interview in a video. Some people don't want to do that. So it's good to know, these 5 folks will be interviewed when we show up. They know they have to sign something. They're great. They're happy to do it. Things we don't like to have to sort out too much on location because it just adds time and obviously makes it less of a smooth experience for you, which is the most important thing in all this, is making sure that you're happy with how the whole thing goes. This part of the production process, what we're calling pre-production, always goes smoother when expectations and roles are clearly defined and communicated. So food for thought on that. And we really want to make it as easy for everybody as we possibly can. And we'll take as much ownership as you'll let us. So just keep that in mind. We are 100% partners. I never want to say to a client, well, I don't know, that's up to you guys. I mean, you tell us. Whatever we can help with, we will. So just keep that in mind. We've seen a lot of things. Was it Farmers Insurance that says we know a lot because we've seen a lot or something like that? We've seen a lot of things, and there's not a whole lot we haven't dealt with and are happy to help accommodate. All right, field production. Field production is capturing the live footage. Interviews, the B-roll, the aerials. We do a number of productions, especially for clients in certain cities where they want to shoot shots of the city they're in, just to give people a feel for their environment. We did a shoot for a medical company in Hershey, Pennsylvania a couple of years ago, and they wanted everybody to know what Hershey, Pennsylvania looked like. So we got a lot of shots of that environment and that town with the Hershey's Kisses on all the lampposts for the holidays and that kind of stuff. It just adds a sense for who they are. So that may apply. That is capturing all the footage, whether it be 1 day, 2 days. We've flown to cities and shot for an entire week for one client. So that's what field production entails. Post-production is where we put it all together. This is editing. Actually, let me back up, stay there for a second. Editing, graphics, music, selecting the voiceover talent, assuming there is one, all is part of post-production, including your branding elements, determining fonts, colors, all that kind of stuff. Everything that goes into really baking the cake, as they say, is included in post-production. Just a couple of semantic things. We often give clients a rough or content cut. And what we mean by this, and this isn't always necessary, but for instance, let's say we shoot a whole bunch of interviews, and we often don't know exactly how they're going to come together. So we go through and cut all the interviews together. We often will send you what's called a content cut. Here's who's included, here's who may not have been included, here's what they're saying, here's the order they're saying it in, and here's the overall narrative. We'll want to determine that before we go through and continue the polishing of the video, adding graphics, adding B-roll and all that kind of stuff, because that's really is the foundation for the whole video. If we get into changing that farther down the road, it gets a little more cumbersome to correct. So we will often do an approval of a content cut. It's just the videos, interviews strung out. Do we like this? Has everybody signed off that needs to sign off? And if they have, then we go through and continue to bake the cake. It's like the basis of the cake, frosting, all that stuff comes afterward. We might send you samples of suggested music and show you some graphic treatment ideas. So this is often a good time to determine all those things so we can go ahead and polish it from there on out. All those steps, like I said, are not always necessary for every video, but they are often crucial in a lot of videos. So that's what we mean by a rougher content cut. And then the fine cut is a lot of decisions have been made like the ones I just described. And then we go through and really polish it up with the real voiceover. Sometimes we'll do what's called a scratch voiceover, which is just one of us reading it so we can edit to it. And once that's approved, we'll go through and have the real voice person, the real actor, voiceover talent read it. And we'll put in all the final music mix and graphics and all that stuff that really makes it come to life. And that's what you saw today is samples of fully realized videos. So there's a lot of variables, and this is pretty general, but there's sort of guidelines about how we follow this this process. Most all our videos today are delivered as MP4s, which can be posted to websites, can be used in presentations. There are variations on that, which I won't get into. Really quickly, DVDs are not very common anymore. They become very expensive to produce. If you want to make any changes, they're forever on the DVD. So DVDs are something we're seeing less and less of. That's kind of a good thing. They can really drive budget up for not a lot of return. So we try to keep folks away from DVD replication. Of course, if it needs to be done, we're happy to do it. It just adds an element. My contact information, I'm Vice President of Mastcom. There's my email and my phone number. All this is available at mastcom.com, where there's more information about us. We have a lot more examples of our video work on there, as well as some blogs you may find helpful, which dig in a little bit deeper into the things that I talked about today. Of course, I want to say thank you for everybody for taking time to do this. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. So I guess, Amy, stop sharing my screen at this point and take any questions that you may have given what I've talked about today.
All right. Thank you, Pete, very much. Thank you,
everybody.
I do have a number of questions that have come in. First question, how are you addressing and updating videos for clients that were shot pre-COVID? For example, staff crowded in a conference room.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We do a lot of medical stuff, and we have to shoot everybody with masks on, for instance, which may look odd in 2 years. Maybe not. Hopefully it will. Updating videos for pre-COVID. What I would say is what we're trying to do is shoot things right now that have a maximum shelf life. So for instance, we shoot a video that has a bunch of exteriors and some close-ups of hands doing things. That type of footage will have a shelf life. If there are things we have to show now that may look odd in a couple of years, like a room full of people with masks or whatever, more and more our clients are just saying, if we have to reshoot some of it, we have to reshoot some of it. That can be a cost issue, I understand, for some people. But more and more our directive is to not show things that may be at all controversial in this current climate, and shoot with the idea that if we can capture it in a way that will have a shelf life and be applicable down the road, we'll do that as much as we can. But a lot more clients are understanding that we just may have to keep the video on the front burner and modify where it need be. Now, I guess I hope that answers the question. The question is, what if we have footage from 2 years ago that we'd like to use in a video now, because 2 years ago these things weren't concerns? More and more people are just not showing those images, and hopefully they can be reused down the road. So I guess the short answer is every company in every case is different, but we're using precaution and we're trying to shoot video with maximum shelf life.
Great, thanks, Pete.
Answers the question.
Next question, what's the general rule of thumb for doing animation versus live action in terms of cost?
In terms of costs, animation can often be more. And again, it depends on the complexity of the animation. If you go to our website, you'll see an animation demo reel as well as some other animated projects. I don't know if I can say it's double the cost. I would say it can often be 50% more than a typical video. Again, complexity is a big factor. We storyboard the video often, and then there's a storyboard approval process, and then we go ahead with the animation. But I would say in general, animation is more expensive and more involved. There are ways around that. We can certainly cut costs, and we can get into that. Anybody wants to email me a question about something they have in mind or a type of animation, happy to answer that question. But usually it's a little more of an elaborate process.
Thank you. So in regard to using employees versus professional actors, what are the pros and cons to
Yeah. Well, obviously interviews of real employees stands on its own. You can't really replicate that with an actor. So of course we want to interview folks at your company that really are bringing authentic stories. As far as people, say just being in shots, sitting around a conference table or something, willing employees are a great way to go, assuming they don't mind doing that and they're happy to act natural and all that kind of stuff. We suggest actors when there's a little more quote unquote acting going on. We've done HR scenarios for a number of companies. We've often found that actors are just the way to go. That's what they do. They can take direction. I've had a number of people that say they're willing to do it until the camera and lights show up. These are real employees, and all of a sudden it doesn't go so well. So real actors can drive up budget, but they can be a great investment, especially when you do things like narrate or spokesperson. You know, hi, I'm here today to talk to you about such and such. A trained actor is really the way to go. It also helps when diversity is an issue. You want to show people in your company and you don't have a lot of on-hand folks with much ethnic diversity. Hiring actors to show up and pose as employees is a great way to show diversity initiatives. So I guess the short answer is, other than giving interviews from real employees about their real experiences, or just sitting around a conference table or a lunch counter or something, it's great to consider real actors for anything that involves more time and investment in acting. You know, they can't put that, say an employee is only available for an hour, we need someone for 4 hours. Actor's a great way to go.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Next question. Your thoughts about the effectiveness of do-it-yourself videos versus using videos shot by a service such as Mastcom?
Well, let's see. I'm going to have a little bit of bias there, but I'll tell you, you know, sound, for instance, is one big thing. Professional sound, and that's all what you saw today, really enhances the effectiveness of a video. People react to that even though they don't know it. So professional sound, professional lighting, and storytelling experience is hard to beat. And that's been a tough sell more and more in recent years with the advent of consumer grade cameras that look great. Again, the iPhone, you know, makes, I've had a lot of people say, hey, my kid did a great looking video on his iPhone. And my kids do too, by the way. So why don't we just do that? But there's a lot that goes into a good production that just isn't tangible. I would invite everybody to check out the How Much Does Video Cost link on our website blog. There's a lot of anecdotal information in there, which I don't have time to get into, but I think will help you understand why professional production has so many attributes you just can't capture any other way.
Great, thank you, Pete. Next question. For let's go back to employee actors. Do you recommend any training to help them up their game?
Well, I don't know about training, because that's a lot to ask of somebody who, you know, works in say a manufacturing company. I don't know if they want to take the time to become moonlighting actors. We do have things we send out ahead of time that help people prep a little bit. Things to expect, wardrobe, you know, what to wear, what not to wear, things that lend themselves well to lighting, and you know, for instance, don't show up with a Budweiser t-shirt, all that kind of stuff is in resources that we have set up to send to people who are real employees who are about to be on camera. So we have vast experience with that. We often tell clients, you know, given what you're telling us, we think professional actors would be better. If they want to take an acting class on their own time, great. We don't suggest anybody does that or require it. We can help coach them though considerably.
Great. A couple more great questions that have come in.
These are great questions.
How do you recommend laying out a video strategy to film more shorter videos? What are some of the key questions we need to ask?
If I'm interpreting that right, are you talking about key questions as far as employee interviews, or just how do we help boil down? There's a couple ways I'd answer that. Let me just try to answer it here. In short videos, what you want to do is get the most succinct script possible, the most potent script, if there's a voiceover narration. If there's not, what we want to do is get the best possible video interview subjects we can and ask the most pointed questions we can, because that gives us the densest material to edit. And obviously in a shorter time frame, that's going to be the most effective, is a really well-written script that's really drills down to what you want to say. Often we get people that want to add a lot into a script that isn't going to enhance the effectiveness of the video. Video is not good to be presented as a manual. It's not good to try to cram in 6-7 minutes worth of information into a video. Video is great for the top line information, the emotional information, the most effective messaging for a deeper dive that can be found on a website or an in-person meeting or something like that. So that kind of gets into pre-production. What's the messaging and how we want to deliver it, and what's the best way to do it? I hope that answers the question.
Okay.
Certainly happy to answer that more offline.
And a follow-up to that question, do you have a video planning template for covering all the key issues?
Well, we do have a creative brief. So we'll often send that out to people and say, hey, here's some questions that would really help. We want to answer these questions. It'll really help us realize what you're trying to do. We don't want to, I don't like to send a client a lot of paperwork or forms or anything. I want to make it easy for you, but there is such thing as a creative brief, which will really help distill what you're looking to do. And it's amazing once you're asked these questions, the things that come out of that. So it is a great place to start. Sometimes people don't want to do that. And that's fine too. We'll help them, walk through what they're looking to do. But there are tools, yes, to do that.
Okay. Last two very good questions. Are there different optimal video lengths for different kinds of videos?
We're finding across the board, shorter is better in just about every type of video and every industry. That's just universal. Now, we just completed 2 videos for the state of Minnesota, 2 segments that are 30 minutes long. People hear that now and go, well, that's a movie. And by today's standards, it is. But that particular subject matter and the audience required that. So that's an exception. Some videos are 6 minutes long and they feel like they're 2. They just really move along, and there's a lot to relate, and so that's fine. But in general, industry-wide, we're seeing 2, sometimes 3 minutes as an optimal length, especially if you're doing recruiting for younger people or social media videos. Shorter is better. There are exceptions, absolutely. So it's kind of a case-by-case thing.
Okay, and your last live question. What are some important questions to ask video production companies to determine their fit for a particular project?
Well, if they have a demo reel and you can see the type of work they've done, or they have samples that are what you're looking for, that's the best way. Most reputable companies will have work samples. If you get on the website and you see that they've done nothing even remotely like what you're looking to do, you might want to explore that further, or at least ask them, we're looking to do something like this. Is that something you have experience in? We actually have had clients that we've said, I don't think it's a fit. You're looking to do something. And we had a client the other day that was a fashion and beauty kind of stylist, very stylistic type of production. And we just decided that we weren't the best fit for them. So their demo reel, their portfolio of work, and their stories they tell are one way to look at that. That's why on our website, there's a lot in there about what we've done and how we do it. Blogs that we have are helpful, are samples of work. I would say just make sure that they've done the type of work you're looking to do, and then they can address the demographic you're looking to reach too, are my suggestions.
Good. Well, I would like to thank Pete for taking the time to share his expertise with us today. I'd also like to thank our audience for being with us today. We appreciate your continued support. This webinar has come to an end. Pete, Les, and I will stay online for anyone that would like to chat live and network. For those that are logging off, enjoy the remainder of your week and stay safe. We'll see you again next month for the continuation of this marketing series. Thank you,
everybody. Really appreciate your time today.
Yep. Thank you.